Okay, so we're going over the lead lifecycle model. We've got Heather, John, and Hank here, and Wes, and this is what it's all about. So we start out at the beginning here with anonymous. So this is everyone in our database that we don't really have an email or any information for that would qualify them as marketing accepted. Once someone fills out a form or does something like getting synced via an API, whatever, they're in our database and we have the absolute minimal information we need from them. They get entered into this marketing accepted bucket. Now, there's a couple of different places they can go from here. I'll just start off at the bottom here. If we have information for them, that would indicate that maybe their competitor, their spam, there's something wrong about them and we don't want them in our database, they're going to go straight to the trash. So, they might be from some country that we don't want in our database, like Lebanon or Syria or something. This is where they're going to go almost immediately. Another situation would be that they're in this marketing accepted bucket and we're marketing to them and they fill out a contact form or a partnership request or download one of our products or some other high value action. We're going to basically fast track them to that sales accepted bucket where sales will follow up with them immediately.
BDRs.
BDRs, yeah, sorry. We also have a situation in which say we're marketing to them and they've been inactive for about 90 days. So they haven't opened an email, they haven't visited the web page, they haven't engaged with us in any manner. They're going to be sent down to this bucket, which is called passive marketing, which I'll touch on later. There's some confusion around that, but that's for later on in the talk. And then if we come back to the success path here, we've got the transition from marketing accepted to marketing qualified. And essentially the only way that they're going to make it from marketing accepted to marketing qualified is based on their lead score. So there's a combination of things that go into this. It might be their behavioral score. It might be their demographic score. I've been spending a good amount of time in Marketo setting up all of the lead scoring protocols. So we've got stuff set up for virtually any possible interaction that someone has with our website.
What is bad behavior?
So bad behavior would be something like they're inactive, they unsubscribe from email, they make some kind of complaint.
Cool.
Could be a million things.
Yeah.
But that entire huge lead scoring program is what's going to be powering this transition right here. So it's all done relatively. We don't have an absolute score for this. We're kind of going to feel it out as we go. It might be something like a score of 75 is a good score. At that point, that's when we're going to sync these people over to marketing qualified. Now, you can see this is really the only one here that has the little time clock, which basically says that this is an SLA bucket. The most time anyone's going to be spending in this bucket is 7 days. That's our hope. Either sales is going to accept them or they're going to do something with them. So the BDRs rather. So essentially they get launched into marketing qualified. That's when they're in Salesforce as a new lead. And sales can do one of a bunch of different things. And that's where we start getting into communication and coordination of Salesforce. So let me open up this lead status document here. And Hank, you sent over a list of fields for what we wanted to have on the lead status dropdown.
Yeah.
I went into Salesforce and basically came up with what I think is probably the easiest way for us to combine a couple of things. So right now we've got this SQL field checkbox, this sales accepted checkbox, and then we have lead status, we have marketing follow-up reasons, and then disqualified reasons. And what I've done here in this Excel document is basically mapped out what I think we should have for these lead status fields. So this is marketing qualified. This is basically the default for when they enter Salesforce.
So
Sales.
that is now open lead? Or?
Yeah, so I tried to keep the terminology as similar as possible. I had this as open. I changed it to marketing qualified. We can talk about that. But at this point, when they're in that marketing qualified bucket, sales will take them from here.
BDRs.
BDRs, yes, sorry. And they'll basically just go, open to sales accepted, right? I combined these fields into this because I think if we've got 3 different fields going on here, it's going to get a little sticky in terms of guiding people through this model.
Yeah.
Say someone accidentally checked both of these boxes, or has this as something that doesn't communicate well with this.
Yeah.
I think it's probably good if we have everything consolidated into one drop down. So just to go back to this Excel document, we've got marketing qualified, sales accepted, and
sales accepted, that is, the flow is a lead comes in, BDRs pick up, qualify, and then when it's an appointment, they move it to sales.
Yes, so let me walk through this. So
it would be ideal, in my opinion, to mimic the actual process. Lead is generated, download or somebody's in an event, BDR picks up, sales comes in the picture.
Yep.
Unless the sales guy says, "Oh no, I know that guy. Let me call him."
So this is where I pick up with those fields that you sent over, right? So they'll click sales accepted to let us know that they've accepted it, right? Then based on the information that or based on the actions that they take, they contact them, they try to book an appointment, they book that appointment.
Yeah, but I don't get the sales accepted because the sales is not in the process there, are they?
I think there's one that's missing in here actually that we had talked about. It was marketing qualified and then it was going to be sales qualified. That's when the BDRs are working on it, they've agreed to. And then once they agree to send it on to sales, it would be sales accepted by sales versus the BDRs. So they have a place to work within this.
Hey guys, one of the things that we can also do is just eliminate SQL, because once it converts into an opportunity, we know that it's sales qualified. So we can eliminate that so there's not another checkbox there.
Yeah,
as far as sales accepted, that cannot be in the drop-down, because if you put that in the drop-down, you're going to have to do a multi-pick. And then I don't know if the BDRs will want to do a multi-pick. It's a lot easier just to check mark it. And then
sorry, Wes, why would it have to be a multi-pick?
Because we need to differentiate between what's an MQL and what's an SAL, right? So obviously, when something comes over from Marketo into Salesforce, we know that's already an MQL, regardless. So when we run reports, what we do is we do SQL equals unchecked, or I'm sorry, SAL equals unchecked. Then that'll pull up all the MQLs. So that we need that separate.
So I think we're approaching this kind of in the opposite way. So my assumption here is that when someone takes an action in Marketo and we eventually send them over to Salesforce, we will change that lead status when they get synced over to marketing qualified. So when you're looking right here, this will say marketing qualified. And then when they change it to sales accepted, that is our indication that sales has accepted this lead and they're now working on it. So that it basically consolidates this check into here.
When there's another action beyond sales accepted, if they do a discovery call or a first call or whatever, you're going to have to change that lead status. Then we lose that SAL mark.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
For me, it's a bit. Sorry. For me, it's a bit confusing. I'm drawing something less, but I'll explain too. So here we have a lead.
We can record this later too.
I kind of like open lead because it says something. So this is being generated by, let's say, headers activities, typically, because then they enter as a lead. Then BDR comes in place, starts touching it, qualifying it, and then and only then, if it has taken these hurdles in a way, sales is into play. So, and I don't think sales will turn that in sales accepted, or will they?
Well, I think that's something we need to integrate into this training process, is to let people know that, or let the BDRs know that they absolutely 100%, whenever they come in here and start messing with a lead record, that they need to change this field based on where they are.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was talking to Andre and Chris, and
Yeah.
you know, they were telling me, you know, sometimes people come in here and they don't record their activities. They don't, you know, do certain things that, you know, they're the only things that give us any indication in Marketo that stuff's being done. So I think that's something that we need to take care of in the training phase.
Yeah.
As far as for these fields, I think, and Wes, the reason we wouldn't be able to have sales accepted in here, is it only for reporting purposes? I mean, could we pull that report based on anyone that is in, you know, any of the stages that we have listed in the success? So say like sales accepted, contacted, all of these fields, these four right here would be considered sales accepted.
We can,
do
but
that.
the easier way would to pull something like this was, I mean, it's just a checkbox, right? I mean, obviously we'll be pulling reports of, say, Ed or whoever, and pulling all the leads, and then we can look at all the leads and check one of the columns that has SAL, that's all checked. And obviously, if it's not checked, we're going like, well, what's wrong with this lead? You know, it's still in an MQL stage. So within the sales accepted, you also want to figure out where the lead status sits within an SAL as well. So a person can have, you know, 30 SALs, 10 is in, you know, the meeting booked, 10 is in contacted, and 10 is meeting pending.
Yep.
You can kind of drill in that way and go, okay, you have 30 SALs and, you know, they're spread across this way. What's going on with these 10? What's going on with those 10?
Yes, I think that could work. The question I have though is back on the sales qualified. So are we saying get rid of that part of the lead life cycle picture of sales qualified, and that's just opportunity?
Yeah, we can eliminate SQL, because obviously when something is checkmarked SAL and it converts into an opportunity, we know that sales qualified.
Yeah. So if you look here, I didn't even include sales qualified in this dropdown. My assumption was that when they have a meeting booked, that's when they become sales qualified. I think in the flow here.
So just drop out that bucket there, that sales qualified bucket.
No, I would keep this sales qualified bucket. I want to be able to know in Marketo how many people we have in this bucket, and then how many people we have in this bucket, because this is going to impact how we're actually marketing to them. We may actually still be doing things at this point, but if it's a live opportunity, we may not be doing other things. I think it'd be good if we had that type of information. The transition here is they develop some kind of opportunity. So
I think
well, I mean, we can definitely do it. It's just a matter of Hank just informing his guys, right? It's just all about adoption from here on out. So it's 2 checkboxes. It's not that difficult for them to do. It'll take like 10 seconds.
No, but I was wondering, I'm a bit confused still. So sales accepted means the BDR has accepted to work
they've
with
accepted it.
Yes.
They've acknowledged that this lead.
So I don't take
system.
sales too literally then.
No.
It's just somebody has.
Yeah, so like Andre has gone into this lead record and he has looked at this information and then marks it sales accepted.
And if you make it BDR accepted, or is that not?
I think just for the sake of simplicity, having it just be called sales accepted is fine.
Okay.
I don't think we need.
Yeah, and Hank, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to be able to track conversion, right? I mean, if Andre or Ed or someone has like 2,000 leads, but he's only sales accepted 20 of them, you know, what's wrong with the other 1,980 that's still sitting in there? So we want the BDRs to check mark that box and let you or the management know that we are working X amount of deals, X amount of leads, and then, you know, with a 40% conversion ratio, you know, 800 of those should be converting over into a live opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna try and backpedal here for a couple seconds. I don't really have. I don't care which whichever way we go, but I think we need to have consensus here. Are we going to bundle stuff into one field, or are we going to have these check boxes up here too? Because I just need to make a couple changes in the overall flow of things to make sure that these are integrated. What's everyone?
It would be ideal, I think, if we could have SQL and SAL in the lead status, so it's one flow, it's one field, it's going through a process. And I still understand.
That's fine. I can definitely do that. I'll just change the lead status dropdown into a multi-pick list.
Okay.
So if they did sales accepted and they had a first call, they can bring both of them over, and then we'll know that both of them have been brought over.
And then SQL, I still don't understand why we need that. If it's everything that is sales accepted, when they move it over as an opportunity, is an opportunity. Like, what is the difference between a sales
we don't have to have this.
Yeah, it's a little redundant, especially with meeting booked.
Okay, so we're going to get rid of this. I'm trying to figure out exactly how this is going to work if we make this a multi-pick list, because this is the single line of communication to Marketo. When we're talking about these flows, someone will move from marketing qualified to sales accepted if someone has marked off sales accepted in that drop down. But then I don't know how it's going to impact everything else here. I'll have to go through it. If they've got two things picked, I think it might be a mutually exclusive deal here where we're just kind of funneling them through that pick list.
Why would they have two things selected?
So basically what Wes is saying is we can make this a multi-pick list where we can have, them highlight that it's sales accepted and then also highlight where they are in the process of it all. So they might have sales accepted and meeting pending, right?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I think my only worry with
going to make it easier.
Stuff. Sorry, what's that, Wes?
What's going to make it easier for you, so we don't complicate things on the Marketo side? I mean, I'm pretty flexible. It's just a matter of me being creative on how I pull these reports for the board.
Yeah, I mean, so the easiest way would just to be have one single drop down. And I say that if for no other reason than I think when the BDRs and other people are in here, it might cause some confusion if they've got things in all of these different places that they need to check off, and it could get complicated within the flows. So if we can do it in a single drop down, that'd be great.
We'll do a single drop down, and then when I do run up these reports, I'll just go, hey, the definition of SAL means first meeting called or worked or whatever, whatever lead status it is, and then in my filter, I'll build a filter logic that has all those, those events or behaviors, and that'll symbolize SAL, so we know what's SAL. And if there's nothing in there, then we know that's still an MQL. So that'll work. I'll do it that way.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, so now that we got that knocked down, I'll walk through the rest of this here. So I think we left off at sales accepted, right?
Okay, does that make sense for you too?
Yeah, but I still think it's a bit confusing, but if we agree on this, I'm okay with it. So, but Wes made a remark saying if the BDR is working on the lead, is that kind of implicitly saying it's accepted? So are we not doing
sales
things?
accepted? Sales accepted, basically, in my mind, if they've moved them from marketing qualified to sales accepted, is simply them acknowledging that it's there, right? So
like
they'll change it.
Lead status, like you currently have with that working lead status.
And the second they take more action, they contact them, they email them, phone call, whatever. That's when they move from sales accepted to contact.
So it's basically saying something is going on, but
they
nothing concrete yet.
Yeah. So in this drop down, we're going to have these other fields here, one of which is going to be trash, which is basically if they see this lead, They've seen him before. He's garbage. He's, whatever. He's stupid. They can basically go to this drop down, click trash, and this person will go woo right down there into the trash bucket.
Yeah.
They could also conceivably do something like disqualify them, right? So they'll have it in this drop down. They'll go disqualified.
Yeah.
And this was something that I was explaining to Heather, and I think it's a little deviation from the normal way that people do things, but I want to have a second drop down here, and I communicated with Andre and Chris on a number of common things that they find when they're disqualifying someone in their minds. So it's either, no budget, they're not ready, they're a partner, they're, unresponsive in some manner. They'll click in this main drop down, disqualified. And then as a follow-up little, thing, I think we need to have a little bit more information. They'll click something like, they suck. And that's when they're going to basically go to this disqualified bucket. And I think we need a bucket here with that extra information, because this is where we're going to kind of route people. So let's say someone disqualifies someone for the reason of they're not ready, right?
Yeah.
They'll be in this bucket, and we'll be able to take action on that. We'll say, well, the average amount of time it takes someone to be ready for our product is 8 months. We'll say, wait 8 months, and then shoot this person into the passive marketing bucket, or shoot them, wherever. So that's where that logic comes into play. If they're a partner, we'll shoot them over to the partner bucket. If they're,
And I view passive marketing almost as like a little bit of a hospital for people that aren't quite, they're a little bit ill, and we need to
it's where they
convalesce
it.
being marketed accepted.
Okay, so I'm gonna backpedal here, go back to sales accepted, and keep on the success path here. The transition from sales accepted to sales qualified, in my mind, happens when a meeting is booked. It's, we can rely on that person being fairly interested in what we have to say, and that's when they're going to be bumped up into this little sales qualified bucket.
If you go back to the spreadsheet, or when you go to the spreadsheet, would it make sense to have just sales accepted and then leave out contacted, meeting pending, meeting booked?
Well, I think for what Wes was talking about, they're going to want to know the breakdown of that, for like board stats. I mean, am I wrong there, Wes?
No, you're right.
Okay. So yeah, they'll get bumped up into sales qualified.
Sales qualified means meeting booked.
Yeah, it basically means this person's interested in some manner. We know that they like us.
Okay, and that means the same thing as opportunity.
Not yet, I think, because
live
something
opportunity
becomes an opportunity when there's a project.
Yeah. So
inside.
This is what I'm about to go over here. So basically, when someone has an opportunity associated with them, that's when they transition from the sales qualified to live opportunity state. And then we've got, this whole other drop down for, I guess, the SEs is what I'm assuming, where they document where they are in this process of being a live opportunity. So, where they are in the POCs, stuff like that. Going back to sales qualified here.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking to myself, I don't mean to throw a wrench in this whole thing. Just because a meeting book doesn't necessarily qualify it to be a live opportunity. Just based on my sales experience, we went through a certain process. Hank is very familiar with BANT, and there's also BMANTer as well. Every sort of that bucket needs to be checkmarked in terms of budget, authority, needs, and timing. So, I mean, we can get hundreds of meetings booked, but again, if there's a project slated for this year or for the quarter, is it necessarily an opportunity?
So I don't consider this an opportunity. I consider when we've associated an opportunity with them, they'll be into this bucket.
But what we need to do is define, what that threshold is from sales qualified to live opportunity.
Okay.
And what is sales accepted to sales qualified too?
Right, because we understand what sales accepted is, and we know that they're going to be working their way for that meeting booked. But what happens after that, right? The meeting booked, what questions need to be answered in order for it to become a live opportunity?
I think we need John for this too, frankly, unless you know, Hank.
When it's an opportunity, I think we define it. Is that the question?
Well, there's two really. It's when, if you're working on a sales accepted lead,
Yeah.
if we're going to have the sales qualified stage, what makes something sales qualified? And then what makes something an opportunity?
Yeah, so the way it's defined now, sales qualified is there is a meeting/conference call booked,
Okay.
and the minimum criteria there is a date and a time, but preferably we can also add a compelling event and or one of the elements of bond. Is it the budget of the project? Do we speak with decision makers? What's the need or problem? And what's the plan and the planning, the timeline? So one of these elements, but at the minimum date and time. And then I think something turns into an opportunity for 5% if there's a project inside, so that it's really concrete.
Yeah, the one thing I'm trying to avoid right now is having a very, very high conversion ratio of leads to opportunity, and then where the fail point is going to be is the opportunity to closed won, right? If we don't have valid, real opportunities, our conversion to closed won is going to be very, very low. But conversion from lead to opportunity is going to be very, very high. And management's going to see that. They're going to be wondering what's wrong with that process, what's wrong in that stage right there.
Yeah.
I just want to make we stay ahead of that curve, right? Like as Hank was mentioning, like the BAM process, we need something very, very concrete, saying there is a project and these are the reasons why this should become a live opportunity.
Yeah, and one of the ways to deal with that could be that so let's say that the BDR can even put in opportunity, but only based on the green light of the account manager. And what you typically see then is that most account managers don't want to have it as an opportunity because it then starts appearing somewhere in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
a little bit of education on when to put in something there, and that should be kind of a dance together of the BDR and the salesperson, I think.
Okay, so if I can just interrupt for a second, it seems like we're referring to sales qualified as opportunity.
No,
Is
it's
that
meeting/conference call booked.
okay?
It's moving along and now that.
That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, I was collapsing them before, but then Hank pointed out that you have sales accepted lead. One thing I want to go back and check though are what are the stages within sales accepted? Once they accept it, what are they doing with it? It's contact, then what?
Contacted, pending.
Contact, pending,
meeting
booked.
pending.
Okay, so meeting booked and sales qualified are then the same thing. So do you need to take meeting booked out of there? And
No, that's what I was saying is we don't need to in this drop down have sales qualified as a status. My assumption was that when someone moves from meeting pending to meeting booked, that's when they become in Marketo a sales in the LifeCycle stage. Perfect. In Marketo.
Yep.
This doesn't really show up in Salesforce. This is just for us.
So in the future, like about another quarter or two down, when I run these reports, we'll take that first three stages. We'll identify those as sales accepted. Once something becomes meeting booked, we'll label that as sales qualified, because everything else after that becomes live opportunity. So we can identify SAL and SQL.
Okay.
So that part's done.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So where was I? And going over this, I think at this point they could disqualify them as well, and it'd basically be the same kind of process as them disqualifying them here.
So again, what happens? There's a meeting booked, a conference call booked, and then after that meeting or conference call, they're not really interested.
That would
and
basically
then they become disqualified.
That would basically so I have it going from they could be disqualified, but also it would go down to opportunity lost. I don't know if we need this. I mean, we could take this out.
I don't think so, because you don't create an opportunity there.
Okay, cool.
I think.
No,
we can.
Hank is right. That shouldn't be there.
Sorry, what's that?
Well, it looks like you deleted it already, but yeah, that line shouldn't be there.
Okay, cool. It has been taken out. Okay, so moving on through this success path here. So live opportunity, they're in, the midst of, us doing like POC, something like that with them. They're very much underway. There's only two ways they're going to go. It's either going to be they become our customer or we lose them.
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly sure how we're going to mark them as customer or lost, at least in Salesforce. I don't know how we've done that to date, if it's going to be controlled maybe by this opportunity stage field.
It is controlled by opportunity stage, and once we lock down this process, I'll be working with John and everyone else on the opportunity side to kind of define those stages and when stages move. But for now, everyone's using close lost.
Okay, so when one of these lead values changes, that's what's going to trigger one of these two transitions. So they're either going to become a customer or we're going to lose them. So where to go from here? This over here, this little upsell opportunity loop, I think that may just be a conversation for another time. I think we'd be deviating here. I'm going to just come over here and just loop around. So we'll have to figure out with a way that we can transition people from customer to opportunity lost. God forbid one of our customers is like, we hate you now. We don't want to use you. And they move down here.
Yeah. We actually don't use your product. That happened in the Netherlands with one of the companies. But how do you get from disqualified to partner?
So to answer the question, how do you get from disqualified to partner? Say sales qualified marks someone as disqualified with the reason being that they are a partner. That's where we would bump them into this little LifeCycle stage bucket of being a partner. We're going to hopefully in the future be doing some kind of marketing around that. And then we can talk about even having this little,
Doesn't that create some kind of weird inconsistency that a disqualified lead is a partner? Isn't there other way of making that appear?
Well, ideally, we're not even going to have partners entered into this entire process. They get weeded out usually right here. I've got a program set up so that sales doesn't even get, if the company is marked as Oracy, they shouldn't even be sent over to this marketing qualified bucket. They're not.
For instance, in Germany, we have Codecentric as a partner, but we may want to look for more partners. So they will end up in Salesforce.
They will end up in Salesforce, and that's why I added this field. We do try to keep them out of Salesforce to try and keep the BDRs focused. We don't want to be tossing them a bunch of garbage, right? But say someone from a company that we don't have in that program gets in here, and Chris is talking to them, and they're like, we just partnered with you guys. He can disqualify them. They'll go down here. They'll be sorted out into the partner bucket, and then they'll be weeded out of that entire process.
It looks a bit like on the laptop you push start to close down your computer. So it looks a bit the opposite of logic. But okay, that's how we build it.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of wrap everything up here and just go through this. I guess since this is called the success path, I'll call this the failure path. So we've got a bunch of people here and disqualified, for whatever reason. They don't have the budget, they're not ready, they're unresponsive, whatever. We route them to wherever they need to go, whether it's partner, whether it's trash, or possibly something like this, which is passive marketing. Now, I'll just kind of give my take on what I see this bucket being. Originally in the model, we called it nurture, and I don't think that's representative of what we should be doing in this bucket. Passive marketing, in my mind, is we've got a bunch of people in here. They're disqualified for some reason. They're inactive. They're whatever. These are the people that we don't want to be sending a bunch of emails to, or at least all the time. I view this bucket as, maybe the 5 or 6 times a year that we have like a huge product rollout or something. We're going to be sending them stuff like that.
It's like people you only see on birthdays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
in real life.
So let's say
Kind of a placement campaign that we wanted to do, and these people picked other solutions that we can find them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got all these people in here. There's a couple of ways that they can go. Let's say that, it's been 8 months for the person that wasn't ready to buy us, and we shoot them over to passive marketing, and, some point in that 9th month, they click on an email for our new product rollout, XL something or other. We would then, take into a bunch of other things into consideration, but they could either go to marketing accepted or marketing qualified. I'm still working out the transition rules for this, but they would be able to make that leap conceivably in some manner. Let's say that same person has absolutely no interest in us. They've put us into their filter spam folder and never want to see us again. And we have sent them, 2 emails at this point, and they're just not doing anything. They haven't visited our website. They're going to go into what's called the inactive folder. And basically that's for anyone that hasn't engaged with us, and I think it's 6 months. Let's take a look here. So 90 days. And we can talk about the times on this. I'm not married to any specific time. I just tossed that in because I thought that was a realistic number. And then this is like the last bucket that someone goes in before they go into the trash. They have one last opportunity between that 90-day period and the 365-day period, which, an entire year. If they don't do anything with us, I don't want anything to do with them. They go to the trash. If they, surprise us and they, check out a web page again, we'll take them back. But that's kind of the end of the stage here is they either go into trash or they, get entered back into the flow somehow.
One question too, for disqualified, will you build workflows that, depending on the reason, they'll just automatically go where they need to go?
Yeah, so this is, I probably should have used this right here, which is a little gate. Basically, it would serve as a little routing station. Really,
Yeah.
I don't imagine having people stuck in here
Right.
unless, it's a situation like they're not ready to buy our product. They'll sit in here for 8 months and then they'll transition over. But most people immediately when they come in here, we're going to do something with them.
Okay.
Whether it's being sent to the trash, partner bucket, whatever, we'll have to figure that out. But that's the purpose of this. I think this is the only one we didn't touch on here. Opportunity lost to passive marketing. It's, I guess if someone stops using us, we'll toss them into that folder. But that, in a nutshell, is the lead LifeCycle model.
Cool.
You guys have any other questions?
No, I think that looks good to me. Cool. The only thing, again, a bit confusing is sales accepted, but that's me, and it's explainable, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool. So I think for next steps here, I'm gonna basically with the recording here, I'll make sure everyone has it. Wes, I'm going to have to send these fields over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say if you can send me over that Excel sheet, I can go ahead and make the changes.
Yep. So just, to clarify here, we've got lead status. This is just kind of my thoughts on what each field meant, but, based on what we talked about here, these may or may not be relevant. Leads LifeCycle status is basically just what we have in Marketo. You're not going to be needing to use that. And then this will the opportunity stage stuff will be a conversation for another day, I think, just as long as we have closed won and closed lost, we'll be good. And then disqualified reason is just, another field we'll have to either add in there or we'll have to reappropriate this one for.
Okay.
Other than that, I think.
Are we also going to talk about job level, job function, or is that another conversation?
I think that's probably another conversation. I have, we can talk about it right now. I have the stuff pulled up here somewhere. If you give me a second. So, job level. I went through a bunch of different other companies' drop downs just to see what they were doing, and went through a bunch of other drop down and pick lists for other organizations, and this seemed to be a combination of all of them. I think, just separating it out: entry level, associate, manager, director, VP, and C level, at least for job level. I know we talked about doing.
In Tablet, we use the pyramid, and then it's A, B, C.
There you go with the pyramid again.
Yeah.
So
It's allergy, not mine. And he's not in the rooms.
I know we talked about that, but there was a reason that I didn't do that here. I'm trying to remember why. I think semantically it didn't really make sense
Because
to me.
C is different than the C level.
Well, yeah, that, and just like imagine someone coming into our organization, they'd have no idea what the hell A, B, or C meant.
Okay, so this is what we have. What does it mean, entry level?
Entry level is like the lowest level. You're like a, support business analyst assistant.
So that would be the C in my pyramid.
Yeah.
Associate, the same probably, or not?
Associate's a level up. Manager is,
Okay. And the director, vice president. Okay. And vice president, the C level is the same, I would say, but more specific.
Yeah, so this is your CIO, CEOs, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have the other ones. What is it? The job function?
Job function, I had absolutely no input for.
No.
I honestly don't even know where to get started with that.
And what happens with the job levels we have now? Are they being translated to new ones?
Yeah, so with all of the fields, and I talked to Wes about this, and it's something that I haven't been able to do yet because we hadn't had this conversation. We've got, a couple of changes here that are coming with industry, with the regions, with a couple of fields. And basically what I'm going to be doing, it's going to be super, super, super tedious, is I'm going to be implementing the new fields in Marketo. I'm going to be rerouting all of the people into the buckets that they should be in. And then Wes, I know we talked about basically updating the drop-down list in Salesforce so that everything was coordinated, and we're not going to have anyone who's in some weird, obscure, industry or something like that.
Okay. All right.
So I think that's probably a me and Wes project.
We'll keep you from the streets. Or going back to HubSpot. Don't do that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, do we have anything else to go over?
No?
I have some stuff for Hank and for you, but I think we can let Wes go. Unless you have more stuff, Wes.
Sounds like the title of the song. Let Wes go.
No, not ever. We love Wes. Awesome. So as far as the changes, are these pretty easy to make, Wes? And what's your timing? And how does that impact what you're going to do? Because it's kind of a domino effect, I think.
Honestly, I think there's just going to be a day where stuff is going to be completely screwed up. So when I'm going through this new lead life cycle stuff, I'm going to take people from the old model and whatever their bucket they're in, and I'm going to toss them into whatever bucket we perceive they should be in at that point. And once we have, I'll have to basically do a bunch of smart campaigns to do that routing. And then Wes, I think we're just gonna at that point need to flip over that one lead status drop down so that it has what it needs to have in there to power this model, and then I think we should be set. So I think maybe it's just we decide on a day that it needs to get done. I'll start the process of basically throwing a wrench in all of the gears, and then by the end of the day, hopefully everything will have itself sorted out. That sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll probably make all of these changes over the course of one day, whether we're talking about LifeCycle or if we're talking about changing the industry field. I'll get everything set up now so that we can just, have one hellish day of massive changes, and then, everything, the dust will settle.
Okay, cool.
Well, John, just let me know when you're done, and then just toss it over the fence, and then I'll start running with it as well.
Okay, sounds good. Do we, just to make sure, do we have like a timeline on this? Is there a day that it has to be done? I mean, I imagine within the next, 2 weeks max.
No, I think we're moving well right now. I had a conversation with John earlier. Right now, they're the deal sizes they're looking good, but right now what they're focused on is volume and what's real.
Yep.
So I mean that's probably a conversation between yourself, John, and Heather regarding the marketing. But right now that's what they're focused on is volume.
Okay.
How's the volume, Wes, for the words?
I haven't checked right now what the volume looked like. I know what it looked like last year, so obviously we want to trend past that. And it's going to be really up to Hank and his team to really qualify out whatever's going to be coming in right now. Heather, when I was talking about making that funnel very, very wide at the top, we got to quickly make that happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Wes.
Okay, not a problem. Heather, I'll give you a call probably tomorrow or the day after just to kind of touch base with you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
We'll feel
All right, take care, guys.
some wind out there.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Should I stop recording or?
Yeah.